So here recently on the channel, we've been taking a look at various position battles around college football that I think people need to be aware of. We've stopped in Tuscaloosa to talk about the inside linebacker battle. We've stopped in Norman to talk about the wide receiver battle, and today we're keeping in Norman to talk about a battle that I don't think Oklahoma fans need to worry about. Quite the opposite. I think they are over the moon about this position group, and it's going to be an exciting one to talk about. So today, we're going to highlight the Oklahoma Sooners running back room, a room that could be in store for some insane production during the course of the 2023 season. Before we jump into this, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe that the Oklahoma Sooners are going to see a big year in production from the running backs? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed this content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself, and we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And the Oklahoma Sooners are in an interesting position because there are not many teams in college football that can lose a running back that did for their institution what Eric Gray did for the Oklahoma Sooners this past year, and then feel so confident in what their running back room provides. Because Eric Gray was just shy of 1,600 yards of total offense for the Oklahoma Sooners. He was great in his capacity as a traditional running back. He was great in his capacity as a receiving threat out the backfield, and that's something Oklahoma is going to look to replicate because it puts the defense in fits. You give them so many things to think about, it's just adding more layers, adding more problems for the defense to try and solve. Luckily, like I keep saying, for the Oklahoma Sooners, you're looking at a situation where you lose a running back that gave you all of that production, and you look at the talent on roster, and I don't think you're concerned one bit. In fact, I think you're excited for game one just so you can see this room really start to take shape, and we'll start to see that happening during the spring. One of the things I'm so interested in before we really dive deep is what's the pecking order going to be? Because when we start diving into this, you're going to come to the realization that there is a lot of talent in this room. Let's jump right into it. We're going to start with the two names I think all Oklahoma fans would throw out unanimously if I asked who's going to be the top two backs for the Sooners, that being Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuck, two guys who burst on the scene last season for the Oklahoma Sooners. In Javonte Barnes' case, he was productive all season long, going for over 500 yards on the season, and in Gavin Sawchuck's case, he came on during that Florida State game and showed everybody in college football why OU fans were really excited when he committed to the Oklahoma Sooners. If you go back, the Oklahoma faithful were over the moon that they won that recruiting battle, and you got a pretty clear indication as to why. So those two guys right there, young guys, they're going to be there for a while, and they are very talented. And one of the things I love about these two in particular is that I think their stylistic differences play off of each other. And one thing Oklahoma used to do a lot was the Yamaha, the two running back package. I think if you put Barnes and Sawchuck on the field at the same time, a defense has to account for everything. Your playbook is all the way open because Barnes is your traditional power running back who is still very, very good in the passing game. Don't get that misunderstood, but he is your more traditional running back. Your guy who, if it's 3rd and 1, you give him the ball and you let him go smash into the teeth of that defensive front, and he's going to come out victorious. Gavin Sawchuck is your finesse back, your speed back, someone who you put him on a wheel route, and if the defense is even a second late, it's going to be going for 6. I mean, he is that explosive. But these two on the field together, a defense has got to be aware of every single possibility that Oklahoma could throw at them, and then you can get really creative if you're Levy. Like I said, a defense already expects Barnes to be the power guy. Throw him out on a route because they're probably going to forget about him and get him active in the receiving game. Get Sawchuck active in different ways. I think it's going to be a ton of fun. But what gets even more interesting, I think if we stopped the discussion right there and then kind of pivoted to some guys who could be depth pieces for Javonte Barnes and Gavin Sawchuck, Oklahoma fans would be excited enough. But you begin to see how loaded this running back room is when the third name we're going to talk about is the guy that if you polled Oklahoma fans last year, he may have been the guy they thought would be RB1 during the course of the 2022 season, and that's Marcus Major, someone who's got experience, someone who is very, very gifted. Now, during the course of last season, we saw Eric Gray really flourish, really come into his own, and he never looked back. His ability is impressive. I said when he got to the Oklahoma Sooners, whenever he settles in, he is going to be a special talent for Oklahoma, and he was just that. But that does not diminish the ability Marcus Major has, and what he offers you is experience, and that is something you can never undervalue in college football. When you look at this room, all of a sudden you have Javonte Barnes, who played a lot. You have Marcus Major, who has college football experience, and you have Gavin Sawchuck, who only played in that one game, but you know how gifted he is. You know the upside. And this kind of brings me back to the question I asked before we really started diving in. What's the pecking order going to be? And that's why spring is going to be so exciting for the Oklahoma offense, because this Oklahoma offense is one that's going to rely on this rushing attack, as did the previous Oklahoma offense. Marvin Mims is no longer there, and even though I think Jaleel Farouk is going to be in for a big year, you're going to look for that offensive rushing attack to carry your offense, to really be the catalyst that gets you going. And when you look at the talent you have, it's easy to understand why you would take that approach. So you look at this already, we're 3 names deep. We have Javonte Barnes, we have Gavin Sawchuck, we have Marcus Major. Already you're feeling really confident. Why wouldn't you? But what about a Tawee Walker? Someone who came in as a transfer portal acquisition, and I loved this addition. If you guys go back and watch the video, I was doing some digging, and I found some quotes from previous coaches, people who had worked with him, and the one thing they talked about time and time again was his competitive drive. And if you listen to a lot of my content, you'll notice that's a theme. The competitive drive some of these prospects brings to the table, those are individuals you have got to watch out for, because their will to succeed is greater than their fear of failure. And anytime someone has that, they are an individual you have got to be aware of. And not only that, not only the competitive drive Walker brings to the table, I just happen to think stylistically he's plug and play into this Oklahoma offense. So you have 4 running backs right there, very excited about. But what about Emeka Megway? Another very talented running back who is a redshirt this past season, but I think is someone who could absolutely get involved in this rotation. And this is the exact reason why I asked the question in the beginning. What's the pecking order going to be? Because you could give me different variations of the same list, right? Different variations of who you think RB1 is going to be, RB2 is going to be, RB3 is going to be, and you probably have a logical answer. And we haven't even started talking about the 2 new additions, Dalen Smothers and Khalib Hicks, that Oklahoma got out of recruiting. Now, even though I concede both of those guys are really, really good, in fact, I even said this when Khalib Hicks committed to Oklahoma, I think he's a little bit underrated for a lot of these services. He's going to be a dude, but you already have so much depth. I'd be real shocked if either of those guys saw the field. Now, if they do, that means you got a gym. If either Dalen Smothers and Khalib Hicks in year 1 break through this lineup, that means you've got a problem child in the running back room, and that is something that Oklahoma fans would love to have. But when you look at this, I think the running back room is going to be a major catalyst for this Oklahoma offense, and it only makes sense. You lose a lot of production from the wide receiver room. Now, I still think there's a lot of talent there. We've talked about this time and time again. I've given you the numbers in the receptions you've lost. I've given you the numbers in the production you've lost, where the receptions you're losing close to 57%. In production, you're losing close to 65%. But even there, you have so much talent at wide receiver. You return a veteran quarterback that's real big. And you have a lot of talent in the running back room. And I think having the talent in the running back room with Jaleel Farouk, and I think this is key now, and I'm going to end the video on this because I do feel like this is a very key point. I actually feel like this is a point I could make a 10-minute video solely around with game film. So, if you're still here, hear me out on this. I think Jaleel Farouk being there is key, because his ability to be moved around like a chess piece is going to maximize everything. And I know you've heard me say that before, but especially when we're thinking about this in the lens of what the running back room could do for this Oklahoma offense. You have some questions about wide receiver. You know Farouk is there. You know Stoops is there. You know you like the talent in the room, but they just don't have the experience. But whenever you have a wide receiver, you're literally able to move around like a chess piece in a running back room that's dangerous. Lebby can get real creative with this. I mean real creative. He can show you a whole lot of motions, lull you to sleep, and hit you over top. And actually, we saw him do it in the Florida State game. something, if you have the time, go back and watch, and you'll begin to get an indication of what I'm really trying to say here. But that's about it for this video. I just think Oklahoma is going to be in the midst of a really interesting running back battle for how this pecking order is going to sort itself out. I think DeMarco Murray is going to have a lot of fun this spring, and I think Oklahoma fans are really excited for what the future holds for this room, and I can't wait to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.